Okay, have you ever been looking at a house and just wondered, what's it really worth? I mean, beyond the sticker price, beyond that feeling you get when you walk in. Well, there is actually a document that holds the answer. And no, it's not some boring, dusty piece of paper. It's more like the key that unlocks a property's true market value. So let's get into it. We're going to decode the real estate appraisal report together. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by defining what an appraisal even is. Then we're going to peek inside the report, break down why it's so darn important, see how it actually works in real life, and we'll wrap up with a final thought on what value is all about. Right? This is the big one, sometimes literally the million-dollar question. So what is a home really worth? Is it what the seller is asking for, or what you're willing to pay? Or is it something else? Well, that's exactly what a professional appraisal report is for. It's designed to slice right through all that noise and give you a cold, hard, data-backed answer. Okay, so first things first, let's get down to the basics. When we're throwing around the word appraisal, what are we really talking about here? So what it really boils down to is this. It's a written document from a licensed pro that gives their expert opinion on a property's value. And it's not just a hunch, right? It's a super detailed analysis based on the home's condition, its features, and, this is the big one, what similar houses nearby have actually sold for recently. This is the document that lenders, buyers, and even judges rely on to make huge financial calls. All right, so let's say you get your hands on one of these reports. If you were to crack it open, what would you even see? Well, it's not as scary as it looks. It really just comes down to four main components. First up, you've got a super detailed description of the house itself. Square footage, condition, any cool features it has. Then, the report kind of zooms out to look at the neighborhood and what the market's doing. But the real meat and potatoes of the whole thing, that's the comps, the comparable sales. And finally, all that info gets wrapped up into the valuation methods and the final number. And this, right here, is where the real detective work happens. The appraiser has to go out and find homes that have sold recently that are as similar as possible to yours. But think about it. No two houses are ever exactly the same, right? So they have to make adjustments. Let's say a comp sold for more, but it had a brand new pool. Well, the appraiser has to adjust that sale price down to make it a fair comparison. It's this whole methodical process of adding and subtracting features to get to a really solid value. And you can imagine, in a fast-moving market, this gets super tricky. A sale from just a few months ago might already be old news. See, appraisers don't just have one trick up their sleeve. They've got a whole toolkit. That sales comparison method we just talked about, that's the go-to for most single-family homes. But for other situations, they pull out different tools. The cost approach, for example, is perfect for a one-of-a-kind custom house where there are no good comps. It basically asks, what would it cost to build this from scratch today? Then there's the income approach, which is all about rental properties. It looks at how much income the property can generate. Using these different angles helps make sure their final number is rock solid. Okay, so we've got a handle on what an appraisal is and what's inside. But so what? Why do we go through all this trouble? Why is this one document such a big deal? Here's the bottom line. The appraisal acts as an independent, totally unbiased reality check. Its job is to protect everyone. It stops lenders from loaning out way too much money on a property, and it stops buyers, like you, from overpaying. It takes all the guesswork and emotion out of the equation and replaces it with documented proof. And that's absolutely critical, not just for buying a house, but for a ton of other legal and financial stuff too. And the difference it makes is huge. Just look at this. Without an appraisal, you're flying blind. Decisions are subjective, they're emotional, it's a really high-risk game. But with an appraisal, everything shifts. The decision becomes objective, driven by actual data. It's all about managing risk and making sure nobody makes a massive, costly mistake. Okay, that's the theory. But let's make this real. How does this report actually play out in the real world? When the rubber meets the road, how does that number at the bottom of the page affect you? Well, here's the number one way you'll run into it: getting a home loan. If you're getting a mortgage, the bank is absolutely going to order an appraisal. And why wouldn't they? They need to make sure the house is worth what they're lending you. It's their collateral, their security. So if that appraisal comes in low, lower than what you offered to pay, the lender might say, whoa, we can't lend you that much. And you might have to come up with the extra cash yourself. But here's the flip side. It can be an incredibly powerful tool for you as a buyer. Imagine this. You offer $500,000 for a house, and everyone agrees. But then the appraisal comes back at only $480,000. Bam! You now have a professional, data-backed report that you can take right back to the seller. It gives you some serious leverage to say, hey, let's renegotiate this price. And it's not just about buying and selling. The appraisal report is a crucial player in all sorts of other life events. Think about really complicated situations like settling a family estate or dividing assets during a divorce. You need a solid, official number that everyone can agree on, and that's exactly what the appraisal provides. It's also your best friend if you think your property taxes are too high and you want to appeal them. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. What's the main takeaway here? If you remember one thing from all this, what should it be? Let's boil it all down. Really, it all comes down to this. The appraisal report is all about turning uncertainty into confidence. That's its superpower. When you're making one of the biggest financial moves of your life, it steps in and replaces that fear and guesswork with cold, hard facts. Think of it as a safety net, one that's there to protect you, to protect the lender, and to make sure the whole deal is fair. And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. We know the appraisal gives us this powerful, objective number, but it's also just a snapshot in time, right? So is that number the absolute final word on value? Or is it just the starting point, the solid ground you stand on to begin the real conversation about what a property is worth? Definitely something to think about.